This isn't another bar girl took my money story. My wife, Ploy, was educated, came from what I thought was a good family, and never asked me for a single baht. Until I discovered she didn't have to ask. This is about the secrets that almost ruined my life. My name is Tom Mitchell. I'm 47, from Denver, Colorado, and I spent 15 years as a certified public accountant before my world turned upside down. 3 years ago, I thought I was living the perfect expat dream. Today, I'm back in the States, wiser but wounded, and I'm sharing this story because I know there are men out there making the same mistakes I did. It all started with an email. Not from Ploy, my Thai wife, but from her sister Nim. The subject line was in Thai, which should have been my first red flag since Nim spoke perfect English. When I ran it through Google Translate, my blood ran cold. Brother Tom, we need to talk about family debt situation. Ploy doesn't know I'm writing this. That email arrived on a Tuesday morning in March 2023. By Friday, my marriage was over, and by the following month, I was on a plane back to Colorado with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. But let me start from the beginning, because the beginning was beautiful, and maybe that's what made the ending so devastating. I first met Ploy Ratnakorn in September 2021 at a small coffee shop near Chiang Mai University. I wasn't in Thailand looking for a wife. I was there on a consulting job, helping a Denver-based company set up their Southeast Asian operations. The pandemic had delayed the project for 2 years, and frankly, I was excited for the change of scenery after my divorce from my ex-wife Sarah had finalized in 2020. Ploy was reading a thick English novel, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and taking notes in the margins. She wore simple clothes, dark jeans, a white blouse, minimal makeup. When our eyes met across the cafe, she smiled, but immediately looked back at her book. There was something refreshing about her lack of overt interest. After 3 months in Thailand, I'd grown tired of the constant attention from women who seemed more interested in my wallet than my personality. I walked over and asked about the book. Her English was excellent, not perfect but thoughtful and precise. She told me she was pursuing her master's degree in international business and loved American literature. We talked for 2 hours about books, travel, and her dreams of starting her own export business. When I offered to buy her coffee, she politely declined and paid for her own. "I like to be independent," she said, with a smile that seemed genuine. "Maybe next time you can tell me more about accounting. I'm terrible with numbers." That night, I called my buddy Mike back in Denver. "I think I met someone special," I told him. "She's not like the others here. She's educated, has goals, and she actually turned down my offer to pay." Mike laughed. "Tom, you said the same thing about Sarah when you met her at that corporate retreat. But this felt different. Over the next few weeks, Ploy and I met regularly at that same coffee shop. She always arrived first, always had a book, and always paid for her own drinks. She asked thoughtful questions about American business culture and shared stories about her family in Lampang, a smaller city about an hour from Chiang Mai. Her family sounded wonderfully normal, middle class by Thai standards. Her father owned a small auto repair shop. Her mother was a retired teacher, and she had 2 siblings. Her older sister Nim, who worked in Bangkok as a hotel manager, and a younger brother named Chai, who was studying engineering. Ploy showed me photos of family gatherings, modest but happy scenes around a wooden dinner table, everyone smiling and well-dressed. "We're not rich," she told me one afternoon in October, "but we have enough. My parents worked hard to send all 3 of us to university. That's why education is so important to me." I was smitten. Here was an intelligent, ambitious woman who came from a stable family and didn't seem to need rescuing. When I finally worked up the courage to ask her on a proper date, she suggested we go Dutch. I insisted on paying, not because she expected it, but because I wanted to. Our first real date was at a traditional northern Thai restaurant. Ploy wore a simple blue dress and spoke passionately about her thesis project on sustainable tourism. She had opinions, dreams, and a 5-year plan that didn't seem to include finding a foreign husband as a shortcut to prosperity. What do you want to do after graduation? I asked. I want to start small. Maybe export handicrafts from northern Thailand to America. Build relationships with artisans here and boutique stores there. Nothing glamorous, but honest work. Honest work. Those words stayed with me because they felt so different from the conversations I'd overheard at expat bars, where men complained about girlfriends constantly asking for money for sick buffalo or family emergencies. By November, we were spending most evenings together. Ploy would meet me after her classes, and we'd explore Chiang Mai's markets, temples, and restaurants. She insisted on splitting costs or taking turns paying. When I suggested a weekend trip to Pai, she researched budget accommodations and calculated her half of the expenses down to the baht. The more time we spent together, the more I fell for her. She was affectionate but not clingy, curious about American culture without fetishizing it, and she challenged me intellectually in ways I hadn't experienced in years. My marriage to Sarah had been comfortable but predictable. This felt alive. In December 2021, I made a decision that seemed obvious at the time. I extended my stay in Thailand. The consulting project was wrapping up, but I could work remotely for several months while pursuing a larger contract with another Thai company. Really, I just wanted more time with Ploy. "Are you sure?" she asked when I told her. "This is a big decision for someone you've only known 3 months." I appreciated her concern. It felt like she was looking out for my best interests, not just her own. "I've never been more sure of anything," I told her. That night, we made love for the first time. It was tender and unhurried. And afterward, as we lay in my apartment overlooking the old city, Ploy traced circles on my chest and whispered, "I think I'm falling in love with you, Tom." I thought I'd found my person. For the first time since my divorce, I felt genuinely happy. The future seemed bright and full of possibility. If I could go back and talk to that version of myself, I'd tell him to slow down, ask more questions, and remember that sometimes the most dangerous deceptions are the ones we want to believe. The first crack in my perfect narrative appeared in January 2022, about 4 months into our relationship. Ploy received a phone call during dinner at my apartment. She glanced at the screen, said, "Sorry, family emergency," and stepped onto the balcony to take it. I could hear her speaking rapidly in Thai, her voice tense and worried. When she returned 15 minutes later, her eyes were red. "Everything okay?" I asked. "My mother is in the hospital," she said, sitting heavily on the couch. "Chest pains. The doctors want to run tests, but—" She trailed off, looking embarrassed. "But what?" "The good hospital is expensive. My father's insurance doesn't cover everything." She quickly added, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out. Nim is driving up from Bangkok tomorrow." I didn't hesitate. "How much do you need?" "Tom, no. This isn't your problem. Ploy, I care about you, which means I care about your family. How much?" After more protest, she admitted they needed 500 baht, about 1,500 for the hospital deposit and tests. I transferred the money that night. Ploy cried and thanked me repeatedly, promising to pay me back as soon as possible. "This isn't a loan," I told her. "This is what people do for people they love." Her mother's tests came back normal. Stress and high blood pressure, the doctor said. Ploy was relieved, and I felt good about being able to help, but something nagged at me. When I'd visited Thai hospitals during my consulting work, I'd seen the pricing. 50,000 baht seemed high for basic tests, even at a private hospital. I pushed the thought away. Every country's healthcare system was different, and I was hardly an expert on Thai medical costs. The second incident happened in February. Ploy seemed distracted during our weekend trip to Sukhothai. She kept checking her phone and seemed anxious. Finally, over dinner at a restaurant overlooking the ancient ruins, she broke down. "My brother Chai is in trouble," she said. "He borrowed money from the wrong people to pay for his final semester. Now they're threatening him." "What kind of people?" "Loan sharks," she said quietly. "In Thailand, some students use them when family money runs out. The interest rates are horrible." She showed me text messages on Chai's phone. strings of angry Thai text with what looked like threatening emojis. I couldn't read them, but the tone was unmistakable. How much does he owe? 80,000 baht. But with the interest and penalties, it's grown to 120,000. I did the math. About $3,600. A lot of money for a Thai family, but not impossible for me. I can help, I said. Tom, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. That night, I wired the money to an account Ploy provided. Chai called the next morning, speaking broken English to thank me profusely. He sounded young and genuinely grateful. I felt like a hero. But as we drove back to Chiang Mai, a small voice in my head wondered why Ploy's middle-class family seemed to have so many financial emergencies. When I gently asked about their financial situation, Ploy got defensive. You don't understand Thai culture, she said. We don't talk about money problems openly. It's shameful. My father would rather die than admit he's struggling. I'm not judging, I said. I just want to understand. In America, everyone handles their own problems, right? In Thailand, family takes care of family. Sometimes that means the person with resources helps others. It made sense. Cultural differences were real, and I was probably applying American middle-class assumptions to a Thai context. I decided to stop worrying and trust the woman I loved. March brought another call, this time about the auto repair shop. Business was slow because of lingering pandemic effects, and her father was behind on rent. 40,000 baht would keep them afloat until business picked up. I sent the money. In April, it was Nim in Bangkok. Her hotel was cutting staff, and she needed help with her rent and living expenses while she searched for a new job. 60,000 baht. I sent that money too. By May 2022, I'd given Ploy's family nearly 300,000 baht, about $9,000. Each request came with detailed explanations, genuine distress, and promises that this would be the last time. Each time, Ploy seemed embarrassed to ask and grateful when I helped. But patterns were emerging that I couldn't ignore. The emergencies always came at the end of the month. The amounts were always round numbers. And Ploy's demeanor after each transfer was relief, followed quickly by distance, as if she felt guilty about something. When I tried to discuss my concerns, she'd either cry about the stress her family was under or accuse me of not understanding Thai culture. Both responses shut down the conversation effectively. My friend Mike noticed the change when we video called in late May. You look tired, man, he said. Everything okay in paradise? Just work stress. I lied. But the truth was, I was starting to feel like an ATM rather than a boyfriend. Not because Ploy asked for money directly, she never did. But because the requests kept coming, and saying no felt impossible without seeming heartless. Maybe you should visit her family, Mike suggested. Get a better sense of their situation. I've been thinking the same thing, I said. And I had been. It was time to meet the people I'd been supporting and see their circumstances for myself. When I mentioned the idea to Ploy, she seemed nervous. You really want to meet them? She asked. Of course. We've been together 8 months, and I've been helping support them. Don't you think it's time? Yes, she said slowly. Yes, you're right. Let me talk to my mother about the best time. That conversation took 2 weeks to arrange. Every time I brought it up, Ploy had a reason why it wasn't a good time yet. Her mother was still recovering. Her father was busy with work. Nim was visiting, and they wanted to clean the house first. Finally, in early June, we set a date. I was excited to finally put faces to the family I'd been hearing about for months. I hoped meeting them would put my concerns to rest and help me understand the cultural context I was clearly missing. I had no idea I was about to discover just how little I really knew about the woman I thought I loved. The drive to Lampang in June 2022 should have been romantic. Ploy had rented a car for the occasion, insisting on paying for it herself, one of her gestures of independence that had initially charmed me. The countryside was lush from recent rains, and she pointed out landmarks from her childhood as we drove. But I could feel her tension. She kept adjusting the radio, checking her phone, and making small talk that felt forced. When I asked if she was nervous about me meeting her family, she laughed too loudly. "Of course not. They're excited to meet you. My mother has been cooking for 2 days." The house, when we arrived, was modest but well maintained. 2 stories, painted yellow with a small garden in front. A newer pickup truck sat in the driveway next to an older Honda sedan. It looked solidly middle class, exactly as Ploy had described. Her parents, Somchai and Male, greeted me warmly. Her father was a stocky man with calloused hands and a shy smile. Her mother was tiny but energetic, bustling around to serve food and make sure I was comfortable. They spoke limited English, so Ploy translated most of our conversation. The house was clean and furnished simply but nicely. Family photos covered one wall. Graduations, holidays, temple ceremonies. Everything looked normal, even prosperous by local standards. Nim arrived from Bangkok that evening, a polished woman in her early 30s who spoke excellent English and worked in hotel management. Chai showed up the next morning, a lanky engineering student who seemed genuinely grateful for my help with his loan shark problem. Over the weekend, I watched the family dynamics carefully. They were warm with each other, respectful, and included me in everything. Somchai showed me around his auto repair shop, a small but busy operation with 2 employees and steady customers. Male insisted on teaching me to cook traditional northern Thai dishes. Everything seemed legitimate. If this family was struggling financially, they hid it well. The only odd moment came when I offered to take everyone out for dinner, and Somchai declined, saying something in Thai that made everyone go quiet. "What did he say?" I asked Ploy later. "He said he doesn't want to be seen as taking advantage of you," she translated. "He's very proud." It was a touching sentiment, and it eased my concerns. This was clearly a proud family that helped each other through difficult times. I was privileged to be trusted enough to help. When we returned to Chiang Mai, I felt more committed to Ploy than ever. Meeting her family had humanized the financial help I'd been providing. These weren't strangers looking for a handout. They were people I cared about because she cared about them. That night, lying in bed, I brought up the subject that had been on my mind for months. "Ploy," I said, "I think I want to stay in Thailand permanently." She turned to face me in the darkness. "What do you mean?" "I mean move here. Make this my home. Build a life with you." "Tom, that's a big decision. What about your career in America?" "I can work remotely for most clients. And there are opportunities here. I've been researching the expat business community. I could start my own consulting firm." She was quiet for a long moment. "And what about us? Where do you see this relationship going?" I took a deep breath. "I want to marry you, Ploy. I want us to build something together." Her response was everything I hoped for. She cried, said yes, and we spent the rest of the night planning our future. We decided on a traditional Thai wedding, followed by a small ceremony for my family and friends who could travel to Thailand. Over the next few months, I threw myself into making it happen. I sold my condo in Denver, shipped my belongings to Thailand, and started the process of getting a marriage visa. Ploy began planning the wedding with her mother, a traditional Buddhist ceremony followed by a reception for family and friends. The wedding planning revealed the first real tensions in our relationship. What I'd envisioned as a modest ceremony kept growing in scope and expense. The guest list expanded from 50 people to over 200. The venue changed from a simple restaurant to an upscale hotel ballroom. Traditional Thai wedding costumes had to be custom made, flowers ordered from Bangkok, and a professional photographer hired. "This is getting expensive," I mentioned to Ploy after seeing a quote for 400,000 baht, over $12,000. "Tom, this is the most important day of my life," she said. "In Thai culture, the wedding reflects on both families. We can't have a cheap ceremony." "I'm not saying cheap, but are you embarrassed of me? Of my family?" It was emotional blackmail, and part of me recognized it as such. But the larger part of me, the part that was desperately in love and committed to making this work, gave in. "Of course not," I said. "You're right. This is important." The wedding, held in December 2022, was beautiful. Ploy looked stunning in traditional Thai silk, and the ceremony was moving even though I understood little of the Buddhist rituals. Her extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins I'd never met, attended in large numbers. Everyone seemed happy and celebratory. But as I sat at the head table, watching the festivities, a thought occurred to me. For a middle-class family, they'd managed to invite an awful lot of people. The reception included relatives from across northern Thailand, family friends, and what seemed like half of Lampang. When I mentioned this to Ploy during a quiet moment, she squeezed my hand and said, "Thai families are big, and community is important. Everyone wants to celebrate with us." The bill for the wedding came to 450,000 baht. I paid it without complaint, though it represented nearly half of my savings from selling the Denver condo. After the wedding, I moved into a house we'd rented together in a nice neighborhood of Chiang Mai. My plan was to work remotely while building a client base in Thailand. Ploy was finishing her master's degree and starting to explore business opportunities. For a few months, life felt perfect. We were newlyweds in paradise, exploring our new life together. I was learning Thai, she was improving her business English, and we talked about starting a family in a year or two. But the financial requests from her family didn't stop after the wedding. If anything, they increased. Now that I was officially part of the family, there seemed to be an expectation that I would contribute to various needs and emergencies. In February 2023, Somchai's auto shop needed new equipment. In March, Molly required dental work. In April, there was a family emergency involving a distant relative's medical bills. Each request was reasonable individually, but collectively they were draining my resources faster than I was earning money. When I tried to discuss budgeting with Ploy, she became defensive again. "This is temporary," she insisted. "Once I finish school and start my business, I can help support the family too." "I'm not complaining about helping," I said. "I just think we need to be strategic about it." "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," she said, tears in her eyes. "In Thai culture, if you have the ability to help family and you don't, you're a bad person. And now that you're my husband, that reflects on both of us." It was a compelling argument, and I wanted to be a good husband and son-in-law. So I continued to help, even as my savings dwindled and my stress increased. By this point, I'd given Ploy's family over 800,000 baht, nearly $25,000. It was supposed to be temporary assistance during difficult times, but the difficult times never seemed to end. The breaking point came in March 2023, almost exactly 1 year after our first family emergency. That's when I received the email from Nim that would change everything I thought I knew about my wife and her family. The subject line, when translated, read, "Brother Tom, we need to talk about family debt situation. Ploy doesn't know I'm writing this." I stared at that email for 10 minutes before opening it. Some instinct told me that whatever was inside would destroy the life I'd built. I was right. Nim's email was written in careful English, and every word felt like a knife. "Dear Tom, I hope you don't think badly of me for writing this, but I cannot watch anymore. You are a good man, and you deserve to know truth about our family situation. The money you have been sending is not for emergencies. Our family has gambling debts from my father's betting. Also medical bills from my mother's diabetes treatment that has been going on for 2 years, not recent problem. Ploy told us you think we are middle-class family. This is not true. Father's shop is failing and has debt to suppliers. The house you visited is my uncle's house. We asked to borrow it when you came to visit. Our real house is much smaller and in poor area. I am not hotel manager in Bangkok. I work in massage parlor to send money home. Chai did not have loan shark problem. That money went to father's gambling debt. I know this will hurt you and I am sorry, but Ploy is planning to ask you for more money soon. She says family needs 200,000 baht for uncle's surgery. There is no uncle's surgery. Money is for father's new gambling debt. I cannot lie anymore. You deserve better than this. I am sorry. Nim." I read the email 3 times before it fully sank in. Then I sat in my home office, staring out at the mountains surrounding Chiang Mai, and felt my world collapse. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. The middle-class family was fiction. The emergencies were fabricated. The woman I'd married had been deceiving me from the beginning. My first impulse was denial. Nim could be lying, jealous of her sister's good fortune. But as I thought back over the past year and a half, details that had never quite made sense suddenly clicked into place. The way Ploy always seemed to know exactly how much money each emergency required. The fact that all the crises were financial rather than emotional or health-related. The relief on her face after each transfer, followed by guilt and distance. The reluctance to let me visit her family, and the elaborate charade they'd performed when I did. I thought about the house we'd visited, how everything had seemed almost too perfect, like a stage set. I remembered Somchai's uncomfortable reaction when I offered to take the family to dinner, and how quickly everyone had changed the subject. But the worst realization was about Ploy herself. The woman I'd fallen in love with, the independent, educated woman who paid for her own coffee and had dreams of starting an honest business, was a carefully constructed persona designed to appeal to men like me. I felt physically sick. When Ploy came home from the university that afternoon, I was sitting at our kitchen table with Nim's email printed out in front of me. "We need to talk," I said. She looked at the paper and went pale. "Tom, I can explain." "Can you? Because I'd really like to hear an explanation for how your educated middle-class family has been systematically lying to me for over a year." She sat down across from me, tears already starting. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." For the next hour, Ploy told me a story that was both heartbreaking and infuriating. Yes, her family was poor. Yes, her father had gambling problems. Yes, they'd been deceiving me about their circumstances. But she insisted that her feelings for me were real, that the deception had started small and snowballed beyond her control. "I met you, and you were so wonderful," she sobbed. "But I knew if you knew the truth about my family, you wouldn't want to be with me. So I told small lies to protect our relationship." "Small lies? Ploy, you created an entirely fictional version of your family." "The emergencies were real," she insisted. "We really needed the money. I couldn't tell you it was for gambling debts and medical bills we couldn't afford." "What about your education? Your degree?" She looked down. "I did go to university, but I didn't finish. I had to drop out to work and help support the family." "What kind of work?" "Different jobs. Restaurants. Shops." She paused. "And yes, sometimes entertainment work in Bangkok." The euphemism hung in the air between us. Entertainment work meant working in bars, clubs, or massage parlors, exactly the kind of work I'd congratulated myself on avoiding by finding an educated woman. "So, everything I thought I knew about you is a lie? My feelings for you are real," she cried. "I love you, Tom. Everything else. I just wanted to be the woman you would love." It was the saddest thing she could have said, because I understood it. She'd studied me like a textbook, figured out what I wanted in a partner, and created that persona. The tragedy was that I might have loved the real Ploy too, if she'd given me the chance. But the deception was too deep, too systematic. Every conversation we'd had about her family, her background, her dreams, all of it was lies built on more lies. "What about the wedding?" I asked. "That reception for 200 people? My family wanted to show respect for you. In Thai culture—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Please stop talking about Thai culture. You've been using that as an excuse for over a year." She cried harder. "I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. I'll get a job. I'll pay back everything." "With what job, Ploy? You don't have a degree. You don't have any of the qualifications you told me about." "I'll figure it out. Please, Tom, don't give up on us." I looked at this woman I'd married, this stranger I'd shared a bed with for months, and felt a profound sadness. Not just for me, but for her. She'd trapped herself in a web of lies that probably felt impossible to escape. "I need time to think," I said finally. That night, Ploy slept in the guest room while I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I thought about calling Mike, but what would I say? That I'd been completely fooled by an elaborate con? That my wife was essentially a stranger? The next few days were torture. Ploy alternated between tearful apologies, angry accusations that I didn't understand Thai culture, and desperate promises that everything would change. But the damage was done. I couldn't trust anything she said because I had no way to verify what was true. I also started doing research into Thai cultural norms around family financial support. What I learned was disturbing. While family support was indeed important in Thai culture, the level of financial dependency I'd been supporting wasn't normal even by local standards. I spoke with other expat men who'd married Thai women. Some had experienced similar deceptions. Others had found genuine partnerships. The difference seemed to be early transparency and realistic expectations on both sides. A week after Nim's email, I made my decision. I couldn't continue a marriage built on lies, and I couldn't continue supporting an elaborate fiction. It was time to end this chapter of my life and figure out how to move forward. But I had one more painful discovery ahead of me, one that would make everything I'd learned so far seem almost innocent by comparison. 2 days before I planned to tell Ploy I wanted a divorce, I got a phone call that changed everything again. The caller spoke broken English with a Bangkok accent. "Is this Tom Mitchell, husband of Ploy Ratnakorn?" "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Jiraporn. I worked with Ploy in Bangkok before. I need to talk to you about something important." My blood went cold. "What do you mean, worked with her? Can we meet?" "This is not good to talk on phone." We arranged to meet the next day at a coffee shop in central Chiang Mai. I told Ploy I had a business meeting, not entirely a lie, since untangling my life had become a full-time job. Jiraporn was a woman in her early 30s, well-dressed but tired-looking. She spoke carefully, choosing her words with precision. "I am sorry to contact you," she began, "but Ploy owes money to people in Bangkok, and they are looking for her. When they cannot find her, they find me." "What kind of people?" "Money lenders. Not banks, private lenders who work with entertainment industry." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Entertainment industry. Yes. Ploy worked at club in Nana area for 2 years before she moved to Chiang Mai. She told everyone she was saving money to go back to school. Nana was Bangkok's red light district. I'd walked through it during my consulting work, appalled by the obvious sex tourism. The idea that my wife had worked there made me feel physically ill. What did she owe money for? Jiraporn looked uncomfortable. Girls working in clubs, sometimes they borrow money for family emergencies or to buy nice clothes or for surgery to look more beautiful. The interest is very high. How much does she owe? When she left Bangkok, maybe 150,000 baht, but with interest over 2 years. She showed me a piece of paper with calculations. Maybe 400,000 baht now. I did the math. Over $12,000. Which explained why the family emergencies had been so frequent and expensive. Ploy hadn't been supporting her family's gambling and medical problems. She'd been servicing her own debt to loan sharks. Why are you telling me this? Because the lenders, they know she married foreign man. They think maybe husband can pay debt. They are asking me where to find you. The threat was clear. I was being targeted by criminals who thought I was good for money that my wife owed them. What do you suggest I do? Leave Thailand, she said without hesitation. These people are not playing games. They will find you. That afternoon, I confronted Ploy with this new information. Her reaction told me everything I needed to know. She didn't deny it. I was going to tell you, she said weakly. When? After they kidnapped me for ransom? It's not that bad. Ploy, stop. Just stop lying. Please, for once in our relationship, tell me the truth. So she did. The real story was even worse than I'd imagined. She had worked in Bangkok's entertainment district, not as a prostitute, but as a hostess in bars where foreign men paid for company and drinks. The money was good when business was busy, but inconsistent. When her father's gambling debts mounted and her mother's diabetes worsened, she'd borrowed money from lenders who specialized in working with bar girls. The debt had spiraled quickly due to high interest rates. When she could no longer make payments, she'd moved to Chiang Mai to escape the pressure. Meeting me had seemed like a gift from the gods, a chance to start over with someone who could help her pay off her debts while building a new life. Everything I told you about wanting an honest business, about education being important, that was all true, she insisted. I really do want those things. You made them seem possible. But you were using me to pay off loan sharks. At first, yes. But then I really fell in love with you. The money became less important than being with you. Then why didn't you tell me the truth? Because I was scared you would leave. And then the debt would still be there, but I wouldn't have you. It was a heartbreaking admission, but it didn't change the fundamental problem. Our entire relationship was built on a foundation of lies and financial deception. Even worse, those lies had now put me in physical danger. That night, I called my buddy Mike and told him everything. Jesus Christ, Tom, he said. You need to get out of there immediately. I know, I'm booking a flight tonight. What about Ploy? I looked across the room at my wife, who was sitting on the couch crying quietly. I don't know. I honestly don't know if anything she's told me is true, including her feelings for me. Maybe some of it was true, Mike said. But does it matter at this point? He was right. Even if Ploy's feelings were genuine, even if she'd truly wanted to change, the deception was too deep and the consequences too dangerous. I couldn't build a life with someone I couldn't trust, especially when that lack of trust might get me hurt or killed. The next morning, I told Ploy I was leaving Thailand. She begged, cried, and promised to fix everything, but we both knew it was over. I'll pay off your debt, I said finally. Not because I have to, but because despite everything, I don't want to see you get hurt. Tom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because that's the kind of person I am, and I'm not going to let you be hurt by loan sharks because of mistakes we both made. I arranged to transfer 400,000 baht to Jiraporn, who would handle paying off the Bangkok lenders. It was money I couldn't afford to lose, but my safety and peace of mind were worth more than my savings account. 3 days later, I was on a plane back to Denver with one suitcase and a broken heart. I'd left everything else behind. The furniture, the life we'd built, the dreams of starting a consulting business in Thailand. All of it felt contaminated by the lies. The hardest part wasn't the money I'd lost, though that stung. It wasn't even the deception, though that had shattered my ability to trust my own judgment. The hardest part was mourning a person who had never really existed. I'd fallen in love with Ploy, the educated businesswoman, the independent woman who paid for her own coffee and had 5-year plans. That woman was a carefully constructed fiction designed to appeal to lonely Western men with money and savior complexes. But I'd also glimpsed the real Ploy, the scared woman trapped by poverty and family obligations, who'd made increasingly desperate choices to survive. That woman deserved sympathy, even love. But she'd never trusted me enough to show me who she really was. Back in Denver, I had to rebuild everything. I'd sold my condo and quit my job, so I was starting over at 47 in a city where rent had doubled since I'd left. I found a small apartment and started freelancing while looking for permanent work. The emotional healing was harder than the financial recovery. I'd been completely fooled by someone I'd shared a bed with, someone I'd married and planned a future with. How could I trust my judgment about anyone ever again? I started seeing a therapist who specialized in relationship trauma. Dr. Sarah Chen helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't uncommon among Western men who sought relationships in Southeast Asia without understanding the cultural and economic context. You weren't stupid, she told me during one session. You were targeted by someone who was very good at reading what you wanted and giving it to you. The fact that her feelings may have been partially genuine makes it more confusing, not less. But I should have seen the signs, I insisted. Maybe, but love makes us want to believe the best about people. And frankly, you were dealing with cultural differences you didn't fully understand. She was right about the cultural aspect. Through therapy and research, I learned that the economic pressure on Thai families, especially poor families, was something I'd never fully grasped. Multi-generational financial support wasn't just normal, it was expected. For Ploy, finding a foreign husband wasn't just about love, it was about survival for her entire family. That didn't excuse the deception, but it helped me understand it. Ploy had been trapped between her family's needs and my expectations. Rather than trust me with the truth, she'd created a fiction that served both purposes. The cultural misunderstanding went deeper than financial obligations. In Thailand, the concept of kreng jai, not wanting to inconvenience or burden others, meant that direct communication about problems was often avoided. What I'd interpreted as mysterious phone calls and evasive answers might have been Ploy's attempt to handle family problems without bothering me. But understanding the cultural context didn't heal the betrayal. Trust, once broken so completely, was almost impossible to rebuild. Even if Ploy had confessed everything and tried to start fresh, I'm not sure I could have believed anything she said. 6 months after returning to Denver, I got an unexpected email. It was from Ploy, written in her careful English. Dear Tom, I hope you are well and happy in America. I wanted you to know that I paid back all the money you sent for my debt. I am working 2 jobs now, one in a restaurant and one teaching English to children. It is hard work, but honest work. I also wanted to say I am sorry, not just for lying, but for not trusting you with the truth. I think maybe if I had been brave enough to tell you about my real life, we could have found a way to make it work. But I was too scared of losing you. I am not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that loving you changed me. Even though it ended badly, you made me want to be better. I am trying to be the woman you thought I was. I hope someday you can forgive me. Ploy. I read that email a dozen times. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell her I appreciated her honesty and wished her well. But Dr. Chen advised against it. Contact would just reopen wounds for both of you, she said. Let her work on becoming the person she wants to be and focus on your own healing. She was right. Ploy and I were both trying to recover from a relationship that had damaged us both. She was learning to be honest. I was learning to trust again. Those were separate journeys. It's been 8 months since I left Thailand, and I'm finally ready to tell this story. Not because I'm completely healed. I'm not sure I'll ever fully trust my judgment about relationships again. But because I've learned things that might help other men avoid similar mistakes. First, cultural differences are real, but they're not an excuse for deception. If someone uses "you don't understand my culture" to shut down legitimate questions, that's a red flag. Real cultural differences can be explained and discussed. Hidden agendas can't. Second, financial emergencies that happen monthly aren't emergencies, they're lifestyle. If you find yourself regularly supporting someone's family without understanding their complete financial picture, you're being used. Family support is important in many cultures, but it should be transparent and sustainable. Third, trust your instincts. I had doubts from the beginning, but I suppressed them because I wanted the relationship to work. When someone you love makes you feel like you're being unreasonable for asking basic questions, that's not love, that's manipulation. Fourth, take time to really know someone before making major life changes. I sold my condo and moved to another country for someone I'd known less than a year. Love feels urgent, but good relationships can withstand the test of time and scrutiny. Finally, understand that poverty and desperation make people do things they wouldn't normally do. That doesn't excuse deception, but it explains it. If you're going to date across significant economic differences, especially in developing countries, you need to understand the pressures your partner might be facing. I'm dating again now, carefully, slowly, with American women who have their own careers and health insurance. It's different from the passion I felt with Ploy, but it's honest. Sometimes, honest is better than passionate. I don't regret going to Thailand or falling in love. I regret not asking harder questions and trusting my instincts. Most of all, I regret that Ploy felt she couldn't trust me with the truth. Maybe if she had, We could have built something real instead of something beautiful but fake. Thailand is still a beautiful country full of wonderful people. Thai women are not all gold diggers or liars. But if you're a Western man looking for love in Southeast Asia, go with your eyes open. Understand the cultural and economic context. Ask direct questions and expect honest answers. And remember that if something seems too good to be true, an educated, independent woman who never asks for money, it might be exactly that. Love should make you want to know someone better, not make you afraid to ask questions. Real love can survive the truth. In fact, it requires it. That's what I wish I'd known before I fell for a woman who was everything I wanted her to be, but nothing like who she really was. And that's why I'm telling you this story, so maybe you can avoid learning this lesson the hard way like I did. The truth might hurt, but lies will destroy you. Trust me on that one.